Hello, 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 hello. Hey everybody, Jeff here. Sorry I'm late. It's coffee hour. I was brewing a coffee. Kind of go together. So yeah, anyways, welcome to, I was going to say this was like it's not community questions. This is the live event where hopefully people will pop in to the chat. I can see Mark and Lila are already here. Hello, both of you. Thank you so much. Yes, Mark, sorry. It is absolutely on. I was trying to get one of those like starting soon overlays, and I was nearly there because that was going to let you know that it was actually going to happen. But then I couldn't get it sized properly in OBS. So I'm like, okay, I'm not going to fuss with this anymore. And then I was brewing coffee, and then one thing led to another, yada, yada, yada. Here we are. This is the time that I am regularly nowadays, not so intermittently, setting aside to answer questions. So, yeah, that's what the chat is for. I can see that some folks are already in the chat. Thank you. Mark, good to see you. As always, Lila, again, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. David Walsh, welcome. I think you've joined us here in the chat before, if I'm not mistaken. Welcome back. Elizabeth, hi, Jeff. You're my go-to vocal amazing coach for the past few years. Blessings. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. I really appreciate it. Excuse me, I might need to get a tissue here in a second. It is really chilly, you might have guessed, back here, so a little bit funny there, but all good. Manuel, hi, Jeff. I want to have, for fun, but not always, a long session of vocalizations of various kinds. In which order can I do it? I refer to the various videos of your channel. Awesome question. That's kind of like you have inadvertently touched on what I was trying to do with the channel here. Most of the vocalizations, and that's what they all are, by the way. I mean, there are some videos where I just kind of chit-chat and talk about this, that, or the other thing, but the channel is comprised of vocalizations, most of which are between 10 and 25 minutes. Now, there's a few exceptions to that where they're really long, but you can organize them in whatever way suits you best. Now, there are some things that you might consider when you're doing that. You know, consider the vowels that work really well for you. Consider the ranges that your repertoire are in, so that you're making sure to work on those ranges, and maybe any kinds of things that you're working on with your voice. So, for example, if you are maybe working on trying to balance out overall phonation, getting good vowel alignment throughout the various registers of your voice, then you might start your sequence of vocalizations with vowels that you already have pretty good alignment with, and then move those into videos that feature vowels that are more challenging. That's one of the things about the channel that I wanted to do, is I wanted it to be this sort of choose your own adventure kind of way of putting together programs that are specific to your needs, because not everybody can work with a teacher, right? So that's one of the goals here. Jersey, love Steph. Good afternoon. Good afternoon to you as well. Hi, Jeff. Got my cup of joe. Brilliant, Mark. What, if you don't mind, what is it you have brewed for today? I have brewed for this session. I ordered it from Rogue Wave, which is a coffee company. Now I ordered it. I paid for it. I'm like, they didn't send it to me. I'm not like a coffee YouTuber anyway, so I don't know why I feel like I should have to say that, but just in case, I bought this stuff, and it's delightful. I think it's a sort of Colombian blend, sort of a South American blend, and it's absolutely delightful. So yeah, let us know what you are brewing, Mark. Hi to everyone, says Ors 19810. Toby James, hey Jeff, I'm playing Audrey to next week's for 5 shows. I believe that's in Little Shop of Horrors, I think. I'm taking care of my voice as best I can, but any tips? It's demanding on the voice being so monstrous. Yeah. couple things. Watch your fatigue levels. Make sure you plan good time away. Like, so if you're using your voice that really intensely during the shows, then make sure you have time to recuperate. So maybe stay out of loud environments where you have to talk loud, stay off the phone. Prioritize your voice. Maybe don't talk as much as you might normally. Make sure that you're doing vocalizations carefully, preferably before, and maybe even a little bit after the show, not much, but a little bit of focusing and, they say warming down or cooling down, but I think of it more as focusing, because oftentimes in performance, we do things that are outside the realm of what we might think of as neutral vocalization. So we're doing sort of effects and dramatic presentations. So focusing, coming back to that focal point afterwards, I think is really important. And think about vocal rest when you're not on the gig. I will frequently, I know this is really extreme, but if I really need vocal rest around the house, then I will set up my laptop so that I have like a I have like a hotkey set up for text to speech. And so I'll type things out and then hit the text to speech and like talk to my family that way. I know that's a little bit ridiculous, but you want to make sure that you're recuperating effectively at the ends of your shows. You don't want to get into a vocal fatigue kind of situation. Toby, perfect, someone says, which is hopefully reference to the connection and the audio and stuff like that. Toby James, thank you so much. Yep, I've taken vacation from my day job for the show. Brilliant. Wonderful. It is a Hawaiian blend from Sprouts, right? I'm familiar with Sprouts, a local farmer's market, their own brand. It's pretty mild. Lovely. I do so enjoy the blends that you can get from the local markets. Around here we often we'll go to Berkeley Bowl, and they have their own blends of different coffees and things like that. But I kind of splurged out on this one this time around. But yeah, a lot of times you can get like really, really nice blends and different things from your local markets and whatnot. And of course, you're supporting local businesses, which is amazing and awesome. Good stuff. Ada. Hey, Jeff. Thanks for everything. You helped me a bit. A lot. Sorry. Not a bit. A lot. Actually, I'm going to size this up a little bit because I'm obviously having issues. Oh, that didn't size it up. Maybe if I do this. No, probably not. All right. Well, whatever. It's fine. What was I talking about? It doesn't matter. Yeah, I was just talking to Ada. Thank you for joining us today, Ada. Mark Freeman, I like Death Wish, but it's about $20 a pound here. I haven't tried Death Wish before. It's kind of intimidating looking. I mean, the packaging is pretty rough looking. But one of these days, I'm sure I'll get around to it. I wanted to try this coffee because I had in the past gotten coffee from places that were sort of fair trade and, kind of supposedly, paying farmers and growers more for their money and things like that. But I hadn't bought coffee from anybody that had so much tracing for the specific coffees that they were selling. So this one you can, it lists like the farms, the processes by which they prepared to get the beans out of the cherries, the fruit, all kinds of crazy information. So it's kind of cool. It's right now it's sort of coming down to temperature a little bit in the thermos that I have over here, and then I'll try it in a little bit. That's is that Arnold? Hi Jeff, how can I know what is my vocal range limit to don't push harder and don't get damage? Okay, so all right, so I am going to get a tissue. 1 second, please. I'm still here. I'm just on the other side of the studio. It's just a little bit chilly. And why I didn't bring the tissue box over, I don't know. Okay. You're going to have, so if you're not working with a teacher or a coach, then you have to really pay attention to when your voice starts to sound like it's getting forced or it's strident. If you have not already aligned your vowels in your chest voice range, your thyroarytenoid dominant singing voice, this will be difficult or impossible. Right? So what am I talking about? Let's switch screens here. This is my like comfortable chest voice range. Once you've aligned those 5 cardinal vowels, right? E, A, A, O, U. When you can sing them all and they sound basically the same in that range, then you can start experimenting with where your limits are, okay? You really can't see my hands anymore. Oh, no, wait, there they are. Okay, never mind. So what you'll notice is that when you start to ascend, if I try to sing these vowels the same as I keep on going higher, they're going to start getting a little strident, a little forced. You know, and you can hear how, and my habits now of going back such a long time now, I'm still probably modifying a little bit, but as you go higher and higher, in order to keep it sounding the same, you actually have to adjust it. Where those vowel modifications become necessary starts to tell you about where you are in your voice. At that point, where they just begin, you'll have crossed the primo passaggio, and you are moving towards the secondo passaggio. That's the beginning of learning to kind of understand where the vocal registration events are, and the kind of, they're not limits necessarily at that point, they're just registration events. They're things that you have to learn to navigate beyond to then keep going. But depending on how you do it, you will either set a limitation or you will open up more range of your voice. So if you want to learn what your vocal range limits are, it starts with vowel alignment in the comfortable area of your voice, and it starts with, in my opinion, an Appoggio breath management practice. That practice gives you the most flexible usage of your voice as you continue to explore the expanding range that you have, and make it possible for you to really get the most out of your voice and the most flexible, in my opinion, pleasant usage from it. So that's where I would begin. That's how I would begin with that. I can see that I need to scroll back up here. David Walsh, when you teach, do you use a list of topics you work your way through, or do you select topics based on what the singer needs work on? Orderly progression through strengths plus weaknesses, or troubleshooting? And something David also followed up with, I only skipped the polite introduction to my question to save spaces. Now, no worries at all. I didn't think about that at all. All good, all good. So, yeah, a really, really cool question. It kind of depends on the needs of the client. And it also depends on how they perceive, like what their perception of vocal practice is. So I certainly do have a framework of ideas and ways that I work on or work through with a vocalist to establish the most balanced phonation. So to me, the greatest amount of flexibility and artistic choice for us as vocalists comes from finding what I think of as neutral, balanced phonation across the various registers of the voice. Now, if a client comes to me and they, have a show 3 days later and they have something that's really not working for them, then all of that kind of gets chucked away, and we're just going to look at whatever it is they need to do to get through their gig. And then if we continue to work together, we might circle back around and kind of work on the fundamentals and sort of establish, you know, a firmer foundation so that they don't find themselves in those situations. When I'm given the opportunity to work with a vocalist that basically says, I want to be better, and you're the pro, so let's do this thing, then I will work through them in a step-by-step basis. That means establishing balanced phonation in the thyroarytenoid dominant singing voice, the chest voice. I usually start to, you know, as that comes into play and we establish an Appoggio practice, I probably start to look at vowel modification and registration event practice maybe a bit sooner than some, maybe a bit later than others. I don't dive right into that. But in my experience, starting the process of studying registration events informs how they hear and how they align vowels in the thyroarytenoid dominant singing voice. In other words, it helps them listen more acutely to how they are producing pitch and tone in the comfortable range of their voice, and then it starts to expedite the process. So, you know, like if you read Richard Miller's books, he talks about how there's like no point in studying registration event practice until you've already mastered vowel alignment in the chest voice range, in the thyroarytenoid dominant singing voice. Respectfully, I would say that in some cases, and you have to carefully evaluate this, it makes sense to start that registration event practice because of how it brings out the sort of, you know, if there are any vowel alignment problems, they become glaringly clear when you start the registration event practice. If there are deficiencies in the way that you are practicing Appoggio, they become very obvious when you start to move above the primo passaggio into the so-called zona de passaggio, what in my practice would be called the mix range. When you move into that range, you very clearly start to see when things aren't working, and then you can go back down into the more comfortable range, work on those skills, and then, you know, continue your practice of expanding it outwards from there. Thing of it is, I realized I've mostly spoken entirely about technique, and that doesn't really discuss anything about musical practices. In some respects, the musical practices follow along in a similar fashion. We might start with a song that's very easy for the vocalist to sing, that requires little, if any, accents over passaggi points. I mean, it's kind of hard to get around going over the primo passaggio for a male vocalist singing popular music these days. But mostly we're going to stick to things that are easy for them to sing, and then move on to more challenging pieces, or pieces that they're really quite keen, or if they're singing and playing, then moving on to integrating the instrument that they play with their singing performance. Further to that end, I might also mention that when it does come time to work on those pieces that go over registration events or more difficult, I will very frequently change the keys of those to put them in comfortable ranges, and then work our way back to the performance key so that you're only dealing with one challenge at a time. And that's a way that I would suggest you kind of consider these things full stop. When you're faced with a really challenging passage in a song, break it up break it up into manageable challenges. Deal with each of them in turn, and then work towards putting them together and integrating them back into the piece, ultimately into the performance key. Great question. Shelby, I heard about it via a fellow punk singer while on tour myself. I was trained in jazz, ironically. Thanks. Wonderful. I'm not sure what that's in response to, but cool. Shelby, again, I have used it about almost religiously ever since. It does work great when you need a little extra something. For the record, I sing mostly occasionally holler for the particular genre as needed or less. Okay. Hey, Jeff, I'm just off to do one of your new workouts. Just stop by to say thanks for all your work. Hope you're doing well. Thank you so much. I don't know if you're still here or not, but I really appreciate it. Enjoy your vocalizations for today. I'm trying to like not thrash my voice in these live events, so I'm going to have a quick sip of water. I don't think this mic matters as much as the lavalier mic, but I'm still going to mute my channel. There we go. Back in the room, as they say. Elizabeth, I'm a speech therapist. Whoa. Where did you go now? Got lots of stuff here. How cool. Scrolled. SLP and a longtime worship singer. I've been feeling tensed around the neck muscles. My range and pitch feel difficult to reach lately. I'm trying to sing from my diaphragm more. Any suggestions on what I can do to sing from my diaphragm? Practice Appoggio would be the first and foremost. And I would question, what does it mean to sing from the diaphragm? Like, that gets chucked around a lot. Right? Like, how frequently have we all heard, like, you need to sing from the diaphragm? But what does that even mean? Where is the diaphragm? How do you sing from it? You know, it's about that point that people start pointing to their stomachs and things like that. Your diaphragm's not down here, right? Your diaphragm is actually about here. It's connected laterally across your body. It is, in fact, connected at the sac that your heart is contained in. Well, what are you going to do with it now? Right? It's so much higher than generally we're given thought to. Now, you're a speech therapist, so you may know even more about the anatomy than I do. But here's the thing. I said an Appoggio practice is the best way to do what you're asking to do. Appoggio begins with a lateral expansion of the rib cage. That draws the diaphragm down and makes all of the other muscle engagement or in the core of your body work much better. Here's the thing though, it has to stay in that position in order for it to work. So an Appoggio practice is one of keeping your ribs expanded, keeping a firm attentiveness through the core of your body, and practicing with that, and again, keeping that expansion, keeping that lateral expansion out there. Now, that in and of itself may help with the tension in your neck, but quite frankly, the other thing that you can do that is quite a bit more direct than that is to move your head so that those muscles can't get tensed up and engaged. You'll see me do this all the time when I'm vocalizing in these live events or when I'm demonstrating things a lot of times in the videos. You'll see me where I move my head around in an arrhythmical fashion. That is to prevent the neck muscles from tensing up. I don't generally get too terribly tense in these sorts of areas of my voice, but it's a habit that I've grown into, and it kind of feels nice. It just feels nice, and it keeps me loose. So you might just try going straight to the source, as they say, and putting a little bit of arrhythmical motion. Now, if you're singing an exercise and you catch yourself doing, well, that's tension of a different variety. That doesn't count. It must be arrhythmical. It should be constant. It should also be over the breath. So when you're doing that, the motion, the head and neck should stay in motion while you're singing and during the breath too. Jersey. I hope you don't mind I'm abbreviating that to Jersey. Long scale workout is still very challenging, and learning to manage breath, use breath management is something I'm really trying to get down or master. There's more to that comment. Let's scroll up a bit. I might lose it here. I feel like if I take too much air, I don't have enough space to sing. Absolutely right. Yeah. Very, very commonly you'll hear people... Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I missed EFF music experience. I will come back to you. I didn't. I see it now. Yeah, but Jersey loves Steph. Yeah, 80-20. That's my recommendation. So 80% leaves. So 80% full, not 100%, and no less than 20% in reserve. Why would I suggest this? Because when you go beyond 80% and you're really like, I'm going to explode now, when you've done that, then you've expanded so much that it's really difficult, if possible at all, for the muscles to actually kind of effectively deal with the air column. And if you dip into that 20% reserve on the bottom side of things, it is nearly impossible to maintain the ribs in an outwardly expanded position. They want to collapse. And once you've done that, you've lost Appoggio. You've lost the suspension of the Appoggio breath management column. So 80-20, start there and basically just work with that. There's no a sort of side topic here is, how do I expand my breath capacity? You cannot. You have what you have. Your lungs are sacks. If you stretch them, you can tear them. It's not easy to do, and it doesn't feel very nice, but you just get what you get. Where you will increase your perceived lung capacity will be in the efficiency of phonation. So how efficiently do the vocal folds meet? How efficient are your tonal onsets? You will, whenever you start and stop a phrase, you will lose a fractional amount of air at that moment. So the more efficient, the more well coordinated your tonal onsets are, then you get a little bit more there too. How well you manage dynamics. So as you descend, getting ever so slightly a little bit softer, uses a little bit less air, and then ascending, using a bit more as you ascend. And finally, is the turnaround. So when you maintain that lateral expansion, the breaths come remarkably quickly. What that means effectively is that in a song, you will often be taking breaths and no one will hear them. There are opportunities all the times in songs where you have a consonant that ends a word, and in that brief moment, there is an opportunity to grab a little catch breath. So all of these things add up to the perception of one who has a tremendous capacity of air. But in truth, it's really more about efficiency and maintaining Appoggio so that the breaths come silently, rapidly, and quite seamlessly. Because when you've maintained that engagement, you will then enter the next phrase right where you left off, because you will have maintained your posture, you have maintained your engagement over the inhalation. EFF music experience. Hi, Jeff. Is it belting something you should go for, or only if I auditioning for Broadway? I mean, belting is an aspect of singing. It does get used in Broadway. I think it gets used less than what a lot of us might think. There are very famous. I need to find this quote. There's a very famous Broadway vocalist who retired some years ago now, who in an interview afterwards, they asked about her belting voice, and she was like, yeah, everyone always thought I was belting, but I wasn't. Okay? Voce piena in testa, the sound of chest voice in head. It's a very effective, much less taxing way. And what you can, in as long as you're, basically you want to pick your battles. If you must belt for this one dramatic moment, then you can do that. But then you might also choose to sing voce piena in testa throughout most of the other phrases so that you are saving the wear and tear in your voice. I can see there's quite a dramatic kind of, I've still got that. The sun is still kind of getting the side of my face there. Well, whatever, that's fine. Anyway, no, belting is part of what it is to be a vocalist. My suggestion to you is, as a general rule, limit yourself to a major second above the secondo passaggio. As a general rule, if you need to make an exception to that rule, then I would choose your battles carefully so that you are just using your voice whenever you deem it artistically absolutely 100% necessary to do that there, and then really practicing your registration events so you have an incredibly consistent voce piena in testa delivery above the secondo passaggio, and that way you really do have a choice of when to, use the belt, and then as a general rule, use voce piena in testa so that you are using your voice just more efficiently and in a less taxing way. Felicity. Hi, Jeff. I'm grateful for all you do and share with us. I'm curious, why exactly does raising the soft palate help promote consistent resonance across the voice, especially higher in the voice? So it is especially higher that's important. And there's an aspect of vocal adduction that occurs with that. So vocal fold adduction, vocal fold adduction. I should just pause for a moment and have a sip of water, shouldn't I? There we go. I think I have firmly established the microphone muting now, so shouldn't be any danger of hearing me glugging away. The soft palate is increasing space in the rear, the oral cavity. Ultimately, when we are doing those types of practices, we are changing the way that the vocal fold is adducting. So the vocal folds come together and they are said to close, but the word that we use in vocal teaching is adduct, A-D-D-U-C-T. They come together. And what that basically means is that they're coming to the center line of the body repeatedly. That's how they vibrate. Or when they come together, they make that wave pattern, really. And what you are doing with that is when you're lifting the soft palate, you're creating space, you are adjusting the way that the vocal folds are adducting. And if you have the flexibility to lift that, then you are hopefully also flexible enough to allow the other soft tissues in the oral cavity to remain released. And it is that release, and that release allows them to vibrate sympathetically with the fundamental, the pitch that's being created by the vocal fold. And all of that stuff vibrating together is what creates our tone in that register. And the thing about it is that if you don't have that sympathetic resonance happening in those higher ranges, you'll sound flat. So like if I just sing here, for example, and this is gonna sound bad because I'm gonna dampen this stuff down. I am still, for the most part, I'm forcing myself to do something that's weird, so I'm having a little bit of intonation bobbles in there, but I'm still mostly in tune. But it probably sounds flat because your ears aren't getting those upper partials that are created by the fundamental, the overtones over the fundamental pitch I'm singing, that signal to your ear, oh, this pitch is in tune. Now, if I go back and I sing normally so that those partials begin to come through, then you'll hear me be more in the center of the pitch. And it's a critical thing to have as you move into the upper register of your voice. That resonance is what makes us sound in tune, whether we are or not. Those resonances are a critical part of being perceived to be in tune. So lifting the soft palate is one aspect of it. I think that frequently we think we have to lift it a lot higher than what you really need to do. I look at the soft palate argument. I mean, yes, it does come up a little bit, but it's not as if it's the only thing that's occurring in the oral cavity. And if we lift it too much, that's not good either, right? Like if I peg my soft palate as high as it can go, I haven't, this will be kind of interesting. I mean, that doesn't sound right either, right? It's not that it can't be pegged. It can't be allowed to be lower. The point is that it needs to be flexible. So my advice isn't so much to think about lifting the soft palate as it is to create flexibility in the system so that the soft palate can be in the position that's best suited for the range that you are in. Now, probably if I were to go much higher, that might not sound quite so weird. And it's also quite likely that I was tensing up a lot of other sort of side musculature and soft tissue to try to do that. And that's what generated that really weird sound. But flexibility is, and maybe it's just harder to think about it, right? Like, what do I mean by flexibility? But that's really what we're after in all of these exercises and all these practices, is the flexibility to have the oral cavity in a configuration that's best suited for the pitch that we are singing, whatever range that happens to be, wherever that happens to be in our own vocal stuff. So, cool question. Shelby Pond keeps on talking about homeopathic singer's saving grace. I'm not sure what that is. Homeopathic throat spray sounds good. Yeah. Jeff, I've been using your videos for years and I can't thank you enough for all that you do. Well, Logan, you're very welcome. Thank you. I don't know if you're still here or not, but if so, I really appreciate it. Thanks for watching. I'm glad that the videos are serving you well, as it should be. Suzanne, hi, Jeff. Thank you for this and all the help you give all the time. You're very welcome. Thanks for joining us today, Suzanne. I appreciate it. Always nice to see folks popping in. Joni, how do you approach making space in your sinus cavity? I've heard about this from other YouTube teachers. Interesting question. You'll notice me, I don't know how you'll be able to see me. Maybe we can do the uncomfortable zoom. Here, let's do this. So let's see here. Okay, so this is getting weird. All right, so there we go. I don't know how well you'll be able to see this. I can't really adjust that camera here. I'll back it out a little bit. There we go. Okay, so right here are the cheeks. When I think about opening up sinus cavity space, there's two things that I do. One is to lift my cheek muscles. If you can see me doing that. So it's almost like a little bit of a lower eye squint. And I'll do that. And then I can let it down too once I'm done singing. That's one way that I make space. Another way that I think about exploring, I'm going to undo the uncomfortable zoom here. Oh, we don't need that far out. There we go. That's better. The other way that I explore sinus cavity resonance is with the NG exercise. So many people do this incorrectly. Bear with me. No sound is coming out the mouth. I mean, I suppose there's some like sort of kind of resonances and things like that, but the tongue is blocking the mouth from the flow of air. It's all going out your nose. So when you say the word hung, and you hold on to that NG, you should feel the rear of your tongue lifting and touching the roof of your mouth. Hung. And it makes all the air come out of your nose. And then you can explore all kinds of different resonances there, from all different varieties of ways of those resonances. And what you can do is when you've settled on something that you like, you can start with the exercise and then release the tongue and hear the results. So you might start with hung, right? You play around with the resonances and then release the tongue and hear what the results are and decide what's going to serve you and the music that you're singing best. But so frequently I hear vocalists not having the mouth blocked with the tongue, and it defeats the whole purpose of the exercise because you're basically just singing an vowel, right? You really have to get that up there so that you can do the exercise. And does it sound pleasant? No, not a very pleasant sounding exercise. It is dealing with one aspect of the resonance of your voice, though, that you only hear, the totality of it when you release the tongue and then sing vowels with it. Let's see. Jersey. How long have you been a musician and teacher, Jeff? It's very effective the way you are able to teach. Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. Gotta think about this for a second. It's been a while. So the first lesson, I think the first lesson I ever taught was when I was 16, or maybe I was 17 or 17. Anyways, that's a long time ago. That's like 32, 33 years ago was when I first started teaching. And I taught lessons all the way while I was at university, and I've been teaching in some capacity ever since. And I also, study teaching too in communication styles. I've also made it a point to try to understand just communication as much as I possibly can in the hopes that it would make me more effective. But I couldn't even begin to count the number of hours I've spent teaching or the students that I've been able to work with over the years, been privileged really to work with over the years. Thank you very much for your kind words. I really try to teach in a way that will communicate the most effective practices in the most succinct way. Much as I might like to explain the process behind it, a lot. And that's kind of, I do indulge myself a little bit of that here in these chats. Like that might be the part of these chats that is sort of kind of like I allow that sort of indulgence in these live events, because in my ideas on the YouTube videos, like the practices on YouTube, those warm-up videos are constructed to hopefully for a vocalist that is not really critically evaluating their voice in real time, in the sort of, if you want to say like the worst case scenario, someone's just singing without really giving it much critical thought. I try to build those warm-up videos to still work on vowel alignment and registration event practice in some capacity. That's what's going on. For those that are listening critically and evaluating vowel alignment and practicing Appoggio, then I've seen some pretty remarkable results where people have come and had a lesson with me after using the videos for some time. And I've just been like, where did you learn to do all this stuff? And they're like, yeah, I've been, practicing with your stuff on YouTube. And I realize what that sounds like. I am not intending to pat myself on the back here, but it's just what I'm trying to do with those videos. So anyways, I'm really going off the rails here. Thank you very much, Jersey. I've been teaching for a long time, and it means a lot to me. I think of teaching as being a critical component of one's artistry. And so, in the teaching of things, I too am learning and am fueling and funding my own kind of artistic endeavors. So thanks. I really appreciate that. Elizabeth, thank you. Absolutely helpful. Wonderful. That's what I'm here for. Okay, it's probably gonna do a weird thing here. Is that chord closure, vocal fold closure? Oh, sorry, I'm behind in the video. No worries, Jermaine. It's all good. Shelby, my apologies. I had that question comment in 3 parts. I should have. Okay, so hold on a second. There we go. I have to find it again. Okay, 3 parts. I should have labeled them. I was less busy in chat when I sent them. I'm enjoying this very much. Jazz, punk, mid-grind. Cool. How many half notes are a major second? Well, you're mixing things up there, I'm afraid. Love the music questions, though. So I don't know if you're still here, Mark, or not, but we're going into the Colombian stuff. That's just delightful. I'm so psyched. Okay. Half notes are a measure of duration, and a major second is a measure of interval, distances between pitches, or, well, yeah, in a harmonic interval too, they would be played together, or a melody where they're played sequentially. So half notes are 2 beats long, or they get 2 quarter notes fit inside of a half note. But whenever you talk about rhythm, it's not that simple, because in cut time, or 2/2 time, if you will, a half note gets 1 beat. In 4/4 time, or common time, if you like, then a half note gets 2 beats. So how you interpret rhythmical notations changes depending on your meter, your time signature. A major second is comprised of 2 semitones. So here on the piano, you should be able to see the piano now. This is the note C natural. This is the note D natural. 1 semitone up to C sharp D flat, another semitone up to D natural. That is a major second, right? So the key here is that there's got to be 2 notes there, right? So semitone, semitone. You might look at these 2 and say, oh, well, it's the 2 white keys like next to each other. That must be a major second. No, because there's no key in between them. So this is a semitone. That's a semitone. So that right there, from E to F sharp, is your major second. And the same is true down here between B and C sharp. 1 semitone, another semitone. Also sometimes called half steps. Sorry, 1 second. And I wonder if that's where the confusion is coming in with the terminology there between a half note and a half step. But those are measures of 2 different things. John, Michael, Vincent, hello. Can I ask if there is a technique to have solid tenor voice that we can hear in an opera or a chorale? When I sing higher notes, my voice was not sounded round and solid. Yeah, that's voce piena in testa. And that practice begins with making a good registration event over the secondo passaggio that is predicated on good vowel alignment in your chest voice range and a good modification practice as you make your way into the zona di passaggio. So for the male vocalists or tenors and baritones, if you will, that's more or less where the primo passaggio is going to be for a lot of tenors and baritones. And as you make your way above that, you're going to continue to modify the vowels. As you keep on going up, if you keep on making a good registration event over the secondo passaggio, then you can have a full sounding voice, voce piena in testa, the sound of chest voice in head. That's the technique. That is the internationally accepted standard for upper register singing for, well, I mean, you've mentioned opera and choral in your question. That's the standard by which we practice for. Mopia? Jeff, thank you for all your videos. You are much appreciated. Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. Very kind of you. 2 halftones are a major second. There you go. Thank you. Jersey Love Steph, retracted. Felicity, thank you for the very clear, helpful response. Excellent. My singing teacher said the throat sprays are bad and to focus on technique instead. Use a humidifier. Better option? I don't want to be contentious. I'd probably stop short of bad. I would exercise great caution on any sprays that have sugars or artificial sweeteners in them, because that's going to create a mucal response in your voice. That's not necessarily going to help you. I, for one, do not use any throat sprays. I am much more inclined to drink more fluids, maybe do some steaming. I don't like humidifiers because I don't like that humid feeling around me, but if you're in a super dry environment, that it might make more sense. You know, here where in the places where I typically find myself, either in California or in England, I mean, England especially is generally, doesn't have a humidity issue. And here in California, generally not a problem either, although it can get kind of dry, but not that bad in the Bay Area. So you might want to reach for a humidifier, but I generally avoid them. I'd rather just steam myself and then stay really, really well hydrated. You can exacerbate injury and not know it using a throat spray. Is the issue? Yeah, especially for the stuff where if they have any numbing agents of any kind, I would really caution the usage of that. You said it best, really. You really nailed it. Timothy, the may vowel sound is giving me trouble above the passaggio. What would you suggest? Thank you. So let's see here. Okay, cool. I'm actually not that far behind, which is really great. Depends on what is happening for you, Timothy. If you're trying to be super, super narrow with that, then I can understand why it could be an issue. I want to keep going. Normally, I stop these at an hour, but I really wanted to keep going today. But I'm going to have to excuse myself for just one moment. When I come back, I'm going to pick it up with Timothy's question. So bear with me for a moment. All right, back in the room, everybody. Hope you didn't miss me too much. Timothy. May, above the secondo passaggio. Let's have a look at the piano here for a second. I'll bring myself back in the screen. I'm also going to have a little sip of water here, so I'll mute this mic again. Before I'd start to sing over the secondo passaggio with that, may. Evaluate how you are using that vowel, how you are forming that vowel below the secondo passaggio, but in kind of close proximity to it. So here I started in G major. That puts me on a D. My secondo passaggio is in this general vicinity. So I'm going to evaluate this vowel moving towards the secondo passaggio. Me, 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 me. 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 As you continue to ascend, note how you're using airflow. Note what way that you are modifying that vowel in order to make sure that you are staying in tune, that you are keeping the vocal folds as released as you can. If you start to feel a grip around the vocal folds, you may need to assess how you are modifying the vowel so that you reduce that tension, and then ultimately get a better performance back and forth across the secondo passaggio. Without knowing more specifics, that's where I'd start. All of this is predicated on having a good registration event practice. So if you haven't done that yet, that is another place to start too. And there are loads of resources. There's a 3-part series that I did some years ago. The information's still valid, but it's how to sing high notes here on YouTube. There's my high note bootcamp, which is readily available these days. And if you're on my website, you can find it. I built it specifically to help people connect across the secondo passaggio. So, and I'm sure there's lots of other resources. Those are just a few to mention. If you don't yet have a good Appoggio practice, it is critical for this thing to work well. You won't be able to have the release of the vocal mechanism if you don't have a very dynamic support system that's helping you provide the appropriate subglottic air pressure, the pressure below the epiglottis. Skip it. Is there a process that helps build the ability to move the head voice into the chest voice in the higher range? I find that question curious. Move the head voice into the chest voice in the higher range. I don't think I quite understand it, because it would seem like usually that question gets asked in the opposite direction, where people want to have the sound of their chest voice higher up. And that's voce piena in testa. That's basically what my channel, that's like what all the practices are about. But maybe I'm misunderstanding. I'm going to be here for a little bit longer. So maybe follow up, maybe type a little bit more if you can kind of clarify what we're getting at here. Lennon, thank you, Jeff. I always watch videos to learn about the break and passaggio. Thank you. You're very welcome. Thanks for joining us today. Mark, professor once told me you do not really know a subject until you try to teach it. Yes. My sort of thoughts on this are, we teach best what we most need to learn or want to learn. And I wanted to sing so badly. So yeah, it just the process of teaching, I'm constantly thinking about, learning about the way that I sing too. Yeah, well spoken. Thanks for the Java recommendation. You're very welcome, Mark. Mark Young, thank you, Jeff, for all you have done and are doing for those of us who aspire to sing, even privately, in the best way. Your non-threatening manner is a major drawer. Very much appreciated. Thank you. Really appreciate that. I do very much want, this should be something that we can all do. We should all be, why is this, I feel like this thing keeps on sagging. I want to help you enjoy your voice. That's it. It's really, really quite simple. I just want to be able to help you enjoy the usage of your voice, be able to sing what you want to sing. It might take some practice. It might require thinking differently about things from time to time, but the information's there, and if you have an internet connection, the barriers are pretty small. So thank you. I appreciate that. Lila, thank you for your interesting answers. You're very welcome. Thanks for joining us. It's always lovely to see you pop up. Mark, non-threatening is not the best description. Gentle is more appropriate. Thank you. I'll now go hide and no. That's not. There's no hiding and embarrassment here. Gentle, I like very much. Yeah, I am old enough to have encountered many old school maestros where anger and intimidation were part of the process of learning. And I did not really like that. It did not work very well for me. I guess that's not entirely true because I learned so much and I'm quite pleased with what I have been able to learn in music and what I've been able to do. So I can't say that it didn't work, but boy, was it hard. And there's one in particular, not in my university days. I couldn't count the number of lessons I left in tears. This individual was so rough. And it just doesn't make sense to me. How does one really expect another person to learn when they're afraid and when basically they're trying to do better to avoid pain? That to me doesn't seem like the best way to teach. So I want to be gentle. I want to truly help people get better. Jersey, with the AAA method, is that the emails we receive on a weekly basis. So when you signed up for the newsletter, you would have received login information on my website. And then there's like a My Library tab on my website. You click on that, and then you get the AAA. It's like free. It's there. So you just have to go to jeffrolka.com and then log into your account. The system would have sent you login information when you signed up for the newsletter. And then go to My Library, and that's the AAA method's there. And that's a step-by-step method. You can think of it as like a fundamentals method. It's a step-by-step method on fundamentals for higher and lower range vocals. So thinking like tenors and baritones are the lower, and then sopranos, mezzos, altos are the higher. If you can't find your information, then send an email to me through the contact form on the website. And if you know what email address the newsletter comes to, then just like tell me what that is, and then I can have the system send you your information so that you can go and check out the method. I'm sorry that wasn't abundantly clear. Obviously I need to like spend a bit more time writing those introductory emails, because if you're not realizing that you have access to this thing, that's not the point. So I'm sorry about that. I often feel tightness in my throat after singing high notes. What can I do to prevent this? Depends on what you're doing. I probably don't need to say that. It probably goes without saying, but it does depend on what you're doing. It depends on the kind of tightness. Generally speaking, this is going to boil down to either the way that you're using your voice, where the note is, and your Appoggio practice. If you are starting with an Appoggio practice, and if you don't know what Appoggio is, then you probably aren't doing it. And I know that's kind of a contentious statement. I don't mean to be argumentative here. However, Appoggio and the practice of it, there's a lot of information that says to quote unquote support your voice in these kind of specific ways, and it's not helpful. Appoggio changed everything for me. I adopted an Appoggio practice after getting all my degrees and thinking that I was quote unquote supporting my voice effectively. I realized years later that I wasn't practicing Appoggio. And when I switched to it, it took me a couple years to make the switch. All the questions that I had got answered. So Why am I a tenor but I don't sound like these other tenors? Why do these other tenors sing like in this range all the time and I cannot? Why is it so intermittent? Why is it so inconsistent? Why do I practice so much and still have intonation difficulties? Why do I not have such flexibility over my secondo passaggio as these other vocalists seem to have? Once I switched over to Appoggio, all of that changed. So it's quite likely that in the process of practicing Appoggio, the tightness in your throat might even resolve itself if the rest of your technique is in good working order. If it's not, then practicing Appoggio will in fact make the process of learning that technique vastly easier. Jeff, thank you for the stream. Do you have advice for some who sounds throaty and raspy, looking for a clear, rich tone? When it comes... Okay, so what you're talking about is balancing phonation. Let's switch over to... I should have like a really cool transition for this so that when I switch to piano view, it like does something cool. But anyway, when you're talking about balancing phonation, and that's what this is, you're throaty or raspy. There is an imbalance in your voice, right? It's, in your case, it's probably too much vocal fold engagement and not enough airflow. But even if it were the opposite, then short vowel syllables are the way to go. We, 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 we. We. Pardon me, I hope you didn't hear all that gurgling. Goodness, it's nearly time for lunch. Short vowel syllables where you are applying the flow of air and then releasing it. It allows the vocal fold an opportunity to change shape. And as you do this repeatedly, and with intention, like you have to be listening, you have to be focused, you have to be engaged, right? Then as you're listening for that balanced E vowel in this case, you will find it as you continue to carry on. Again, you want to practice maintaining your engagement. You want to practice listening and being very much in the room while you're doing it. Now, I chose to use a W as the sort of consonant aspect of this. As you get better at it, you can switch to an H. He, 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 he. He, 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 he. And that will challenge you to have good coordination. If you hear glottal attacks, E, 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 you're not doing it right. That is not good coordination. That is a simulacrum of good coordination. We oftentimes use those glottal attacks to give the appearance of a well-coordinated attack, but that's not the way to go about it. You have to have good coordination of the onset of the flow of air and the closure of the vocal fold. He, 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 he. With an H, there will be no glottal attack, and you will hear whether or not you are well coordinated. If you are poorly coordinated, he, you might get a sound like that. When you are getting consistent results that way, and now, bear with me here for a second. There are a lot of these exercises on my channel. You're probably not going to want to hear where they are. Okay? I would have labeled them fundamentals or foundational practices because it's not as if we outgrow them. I still do practices like this. But they are also the practices that we generally begin with. And so you will find a lot of these practices in the beginner playlist on my channel. Okay? Think of it as fundamental practice. We don't outgrow this stuff. We don't outgrow singing our scales. It's still something that we do. So if you know, set ego aside, it's okay. Go there and you will find a lot of these. And you will also find ones that transition from the short vowel syllables into sustained singing. And the goal in those is to maintain the quality of your voice, assuming that you have been able to achieve it with the short exercises. So if when you're singing, he, you know, like you're getting some, and I know that's an exaggeration, right? Like, I'm sure you don't sound like that. But if it's not consistent, it's probably not time to move on. But when it is consistent, and keep that consistency through that exercise. The exercises will then move on to incorporate other vowels. And again, you want to establish good phonation with the short notes, keep them in the melismatic passage, and then keep that same vowel alignment as you change vowels. All of this is a practice, so you have to stay engaged both physically and also mentally, listening while you're doing the exercises, maybe even doing a recording once a fortnight or so that you can evaluate when you're not singing. Great question. Let's see here. Where am I? You just mentioned it. I've heard it called a blend. You actually covered my question in a previous. Okay, great. Felicity, another question. Might you speak to your perspective of the role function of the larynx in singing? Or else how... I've lost you now. Where are you? Role function of the larynx in singing, or else how to refrain from involving it overly much. Yeah, great question. So the larynx controls airflow. It doesn't control pitch, but the pitch will certainly be affected by the flow of air over the vocal fold. Frequently, we are told to lower our larynx. This is predicated on an assumption. That assumption is that you have lifted the larynx, usually when you're ascending, and so you need to lower it. But for the most part, you want the larynx to be fairly neutral. So let's see if I can get... Let's do the uncomfortable zoom again. Oops. Okay. We're okay. Okay, right. I just recorded a snippet on the camera. All right, so let's see here. Let's zoom in uncomfortably. Oh, this is going to work really well. So there you can see my larynx, right? And hopefully still hear me doing whatever. And the thing is that oftentimes it's a bit washed out, isn't it? Okay, so oftentimes when we're singing, the larynx gets lifted, and that's not going to work. But we also don't necessarily want to have it super low. The goal would be, wherever we are, to keep it in that neutral position as we continue to ascend. So let's do a longer one. And there I've been able to keep it really nice and neutral as I've gone up and down the scales. That's what we're talking about. When we talk about it being in a lowered position, it's usually under the assumption that it has raised when we were singing before, which we don't want to do that. Now, when you do get sort of higher and higher and higher into the range, I think it can be beneficial to have it ever so slightly a little bit lower, but we don't want to push it down to achieve that lowered position. We want it to gravitate in that direction as the air pressure beneath it is sufficient to allow it to occur. That being said, I think some amount of conscious lowering in the early stages of that practice can give you the feel of the flow of air that you're looking for, and then it will release down into that capacity. But like so many things, and I know I sound like a bit of a broken record here, having a good Appoggio practice greatly facilitates this. So, yeah, larynx, great question. Oh, and there's no way to tell, but Skip. Tom. Ah, thank you, Tom. I didn't know that. Zachary in the wolf. I'm the wolf. Sorry, not in the wolf. We don't want Zachary in the wolf. Jeff, do you have any tips for expanding your vocal range higher? I wanted to perform some songs by Ray Kent's, but man, his high notes are quite high for me. Yeah, I mean, a good registration event. So I like in the exercises I just sang, I sang over my secondo passaggio. How to sing high notes. I did a 3-part series on that. That's free. It's here on YouTube. Might check that out. That goes over the technical practices and gets into the practice. Once you've started that process, then you can use a lot of the other videos that are here on the channel that go over the secondo passaggio too. So yeah, having a good registration event practice over the secondo passaggio. Dana says hello. Hello. Dave. Pardon me. Hi, Jeff. Hello. And thanks. You're welcome. I'd never heard of Appoggio before you mentioned it. Is this the place to talk about it a little? Sure. Appoggio breath management is it's not my technique. It's a technique that's a part of bel canto singing. It's very old. It is the process of expanding laterally and engaging through the core of the body so that you are interacting with your diaphragm in a way to create subglottic air pressure that is really dynamic and works beautifully for our singing voices, regardless of what genre we may be singing in. Shirley Emmons has a 1-page synopsis that you can find if you do a Google or whatever search engine you like. Search for Shirley Emmons breathing for singing, I think, or something like that. Breath management, maybe. Her name is spelled Shirleeemmons. And you can find that and read that. I've done a course on it. You can find out more about my course on my website, jeffrolka.com. That course is not free, but there are lots of other free resources here on the YouTube channel. You can find those by searching for them. Or if you can't find something, send an email to me, or maybe consider getting my guidebook. Those you'll see them advertised on a lot of my videos, or you can ask me for a link and I'll send that. It's organized by subject matter, so you can search for Appoggio and then get all the videos that I've done on Appoggio. So yeah, Appoggio breath management is the practice of breathing for singing. Shimmering light, what's the single most important advice you'd give to a new singer? Ooh. Okay, I've got it. You ready? Keep going. That's it. Keep going. Because I don't know, you don't know what's around the next corner. You don't know what will come to you in the days ahead of you. Whatever challenges you might be facing, you might think you know how they're going to resolve, and maybe they will resolve that way, but they might not. Until you quit, there is always something coming up next. So keep going. Yeah. That's it. I know that might seem a bit funny, but keep going. I would have given myself that advice in certain aspects of my musical career, a long time ago, had I thought about it. But I didn't at the time. So I made different choices. Now, I must admit, I'm really happy with what I get to do. I really enjoy answering these questions. I enjoy working with vocalists. I enjoy singing. I enjoy my musical world quite a lot. Yet, by the same token, there are some aspects that, you know what, and maybe I should just take my own advice here and keep going too. I appear to be walking and talking. There's no reason why I can't keep going too. So thank you. Thank you for that. I really appreciate that question. Practice Love Media. What are the best exercises to eliminate pitchiness? Ear training exercises. Quite frankly, certainly vocalizations are important too, but if you're not doing ear training exercises, then you are quite possibly guessing at what the next note is. Ear training exercises will make it much, much more concrete. So yeah, if you're not doing ear training exercises, I would start doing them. Take a couple more questions here, and then I'm going to be off into my day. Also, off the discussion of having left lessons in tears, how have you addressed discouragement, burnout in a field on a path rich with obstacles? Oh, maybe I'm not going to wrap this up too soon. This is getting good. I knew there was a reason why I wanted to do more today. Like 2 weeks ago, I wanted to go longer as well, and then I couldn't. And I'm really, really excited. Ooh. Yeah, burnout, especially in the media environment that we now exist within, it is insatiable. If you are creating content on a platform, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, whatever, the one that I haven't heard of yet, they are insatiable. You can create and create and create, and it will never be enough. And so the thing is that, and discouragement happens a lot. I have an idea for a short that is kind of touching on this, and I can address this without giving it away. Basically, burnout, I think about in terms of pacing oneself and finding your own path. So if you find your own path, then you can decide how quickly to take it, and algorithms, stuff like that, viral videos, whatnot, those things cease to make much of a difference if you are following your own path. The way that I've made my YouTube channel, I don't have any viral videos. I have no expectation that any video will ever go viral. It's not even something that I think about or give any level of concern to. This would probably horrify any social media expert, but I don't really even look at the analytics on my YouTube account. I mostly just read the comments. When I, go to check things in the mornings, I go to the comments because the people on the channel are the important thing. Looking at my metrics and, what video did this and what video did that, sometimes it's kind of fun if something's doing really well, it's kind of gratifying, but those things just don't happen without the people. The comments are where it's at. That's where I put my attention, my focus. So in that way, I don't feel this kind of sense of discouragement and burnout and stuff like that with the social media, with the YouTube thing, the way others might if they're looking for that viral video or that huge surge of notoriety. Discouragement. The main way that I think about that is in the idea of choosing who you are. Why would you be discouraged? And you have to ask yourself, am I discouraged because I have not done my best, or because I am comparing myself to someone or something that may or may not have any relation to what it is that I am doing? If it's the former, then you can look at that, you can see where you failed yourself, and then try to assess those traits, those things. Is it the sound of your video? Is it the way that it was shot? Is it the content? Whatever it is, if you've failed to satisfy your standards, and then you have to look at it and you have to identify it. Looking at it and going, well, I'm a perfectionist, so, I always fail. No, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go on the record and say that's a cop-out. Okay? If you're saying I'm a perfectionist, then you are basically looking at it from 35,000 feet instead of getting in the weeds. And I think you've got to get in the weeds. So if you're failing yourself on your performance metrics, this video that I made is not good. Why? The sound was bad. It clipped. The overall output level was too high, was too low. Those things you can fix. Learn what you need to learn, fix them, do the next video. If you're comparing yourself to other people, that is, in my opinion, is where discouragement starts to come into play, because you can look at these other individuals and without really knowing what's going on, start to feel discouraged. Look away. Just look away. You know, I realize that I could probably do a lot more if I used Facebook. And yes, you can click over to a Facebook page that is mine, I suppose. I think I finally took the link off of my channel page, but you know, that page still exists. I haven't used it. I'm not sure. It's been at least 5 or 6 years since I've logged into that account. I'm never going to go back there. I know I could do a lot more interactions. I could probably generate a lot more information, like more people on the channel and stuff like that. But it's just not worth it. It's just not worth it for the way that I was feeling when I left Facebook. So look away. You can't look away from everything, but so you have to choose what you're going to look away from. I think that looking away from comparisons that are not constructive is okay. I don't think looking away from how you are doing your work is okay. I think that those are the things that you have to look at with as much as you can, an objective, critical eye. Not being harsh, not being mean, just looking at it and saying, what are the objective aspects of this that I did not satisfy my own performance metrics on, and address them. So, okay, a couple more here. Hello, all. Michael Montclair, baritone, jazz vocalist here. Well, hello, Michael. Timothy, thank you, Jeff. My may below the passaggio seems solid, but above the passaggio, I think I'm losing adduction. I can only sing it if I modify it as a... Well, you have to modify the vowels above the secondo passaggio, Timothy. If you're not still here, and this hasn't been made clear to you, there are no pure vowels above the secondo passaggio. There aren't. Okay? They have to be modified in order to have the right balance of airflow and vocal fold adduction. Otherwise, they tend to get too tight, and you will be flat, typically. So, yeah. Now, there are levels to it, and of course, if it sounds like an you might just need to keep on going with it so that it resembles an A, but has the appropriate amount of modification. That's what vowel modification is all about, is making sure that we make these registration events successfully. Dave, Appoggio is the biggest single discovery I've made since you mentioned it a month or two back. Brilliant. I'm glad to have mentioned it. Michael, I scat my scales up and down. Right, good. A to Z, scat different vowels, warm is quick and effective. Very good. Whoa. Glottal attacks. When I try to sing up, I get a bad link. Sign up. Oh, I think you might be mentioning the... Well, that's weird. I can't imagine why that would be happening. I wonder if... I don't know. Send a message to me via the contact sheet on the website. Jersey, love Steph, and we'll get it all sorted out for you. Hopefully you're still here. What advice can I give to have a deeper and sexier voice? Balance. It's really all about balance. From learning balance, you then gain control and options. So balance, balance, balance. And deeper and sexier also depends on your voice type too. If I'm here, I don't have like baritone-like pipes down there, so I have to be lighter and brighter in order to have that color and resonance to my voice. Is it deep and sexy? It's a matter of opinion, I suppose, but it wouldn't sound nearly as colorful if I try to push into it. That doesn't work at all. Please don't stop. We need you. Jeff Rolka, thank you very much. Jersey Love Steph. Coral Tenor, keep on keeping on, Jeff. Thank you very much. I enjoy your beginner tenor warm-up. Wonderful. Any advice on startup recording? Ooh, Jersey Love Steph. Well, the next question is, what's your budget, of course. I just got done recommending some equipment to somebody. Depends on what you want. I mean, if you want computer recording, or you want a standalone recorder, or you want to use your phone or a tablet, there's so much stuff out there. But I'll tell you what, now is the time to start looking, because there's all kinds of deals. I just looked on, I was getting an interface recommendation for a client of mine literally before I started this stream. And Sweetwater, no endorsements, not, I don't have, I have patrons on Patreon, and when people here choose to share, like, super chats and things like that, you are my patrons. I don't have affiliations with Sweetwater or anybody else, but there's some ridiculous deals going on right now. They had an iOS interface. It's normally $110. No, it's like 100 and something. Anyways, it was $110 off. So it was like $29. I almost bought one just because, which is probably why they're doing that. But I didn't. I got out of there. But there are some killer deals happening, and there will be even more killer deals as we get towards Black Friday and everything. So, or is that this week? Is Black Friday tomorrow? I'm really lost touch with a lot of these things. Anyway, yeah. I have an Audient Evo 4. It was not cheap. It was not expensive at all. I love it. I think it's great. Super flexible. Has loopback recording, so you can do that loopback thing. Easy to use too, and it has an auto gain function, which makes getting good signal to noise really easy to do as well. So that might be something to think about. Yeah, it does. Jersey Love Stuff. It really does depend on what you're trying to do. Feel again. I know I've said this a bunch of times, but if you do go around to the website and you send a message, like, let me know what you're doing, and maybe I can help. Thank you. Mark Freeman has mentioned Cyber Monday. I totally forgot about that. I guess that's on Sweetwater. So yeah, like Cyber Monday or Black Friday or whatever it's going to be, there's deals to be had coming soon. Anyway, yeah. Deeply grateful for your compassionate wisdom. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Felicity. That's very, very kind of you. Love it. What a great live event. I think this is the perfect amount too. I really respect what you do. Thank you, Emmanuel. I really appreciate that. I think this is about right. I'm feeling us coming to a close here, so I'm going to sign off. Thank you so much. What a wonderful stream today. Love all the positivity. Love all the questions. Just great chat with everyone today. I'm going to mention it. There's lots of options to be a part of my online community where you can post video and audio. That's the RVC on my website. If you want to get like even more specific help, like you can post video and you can post audio and I can listen to it and help out. Breathing for Singing course, High Note Boot Camp, the AAA Methods free. That's over on my website too. These are all things. There's also a holiday gift webpage that I just put up. So if you want to give the gift of lessons or a course or something like that, that's over on the website as well. You are absolutely right, Tom. Now, Tom, I might forget that in the future. I'm pretty good about these things, but yeah, Tom, you're right. You're really, really right. We definitely need. I need to look into this a bit more. I wonder. I'm not even sure where to begin, but I'm going to look into this. There definitely needs to be a Rolka lava lamp. That would be a delightful, delightful thing to have. Obviously, I could not give up on Old Red here, so or Old Blue, who is currently residing in the UK. So I just have to have two burbling away in the background. I'll have to build another shelf, like over here or something like that, to get the second lava lamp in the frame. Anyway, thank you all for joining me today. What a wonderful stream. Have a great, great day. We'll see you soon.